So I think today I'm just going to study the code edit class. I was trying to change, made this list here of functions that get called from the pointer from the text visualizer. So use the symbol crafter pointer from text visualizer. And I was thinking about uh, creating a variable for each one and then updating them from the symbol crafter instead. So that way it kind of centralizes the state change to symbol crafter instead. And that's what I did with some of these variables. And then I thought about it today that it is kind of like there's a lot of questions in my mind. I'm not really sure which way is the best way because it seems kind of pointless because I realized that I'm just doing like the same variables on the two different classes. And the way that it was before, everything was obviously only on one class. So because I'm dividing on two different classes, it forces me to have an extra variable on the class. And I do think that this is probably better than calling the function multiple different times, because then obviously, like I'm calling the more functions even when the values don't change. And if I update the state from symbol crafter, then I only call the function the moment that the actual state changes. And then I can use the variable directly on the text visualizer. So this was the thing that was kind of annoying me, and that I talked about the unidirectional data flow, or not data flow, but like control flow from. I wanted to try to maximize like the amounts of times that the symbol crafter changes the state of the text visualizer, and not the other way around. So I'll minimize the times that I'm using the pointer on symbol crafter on text visualizer, using the symbol crafter pointer. But it does feel kind of weird because of that. But I think that the benefits of doing this is probably because of the other approach, like the other classes. So it's not so much for the logic that it had, but the way that it's going to evolve in the future. But I'm still not 100% sure, like, if that's the best way or not. But I think today, I'm probably gonna see if the ones that I can't convert, and I'm probably not gonna convert, are the ones that depend on the lines. So, because then obviously I would have to keep track of the vectors on text visualizer, and then goes back to the thing that it kind of defeats the point of having the two classes, because then it's just a copy of the whole state. Yeah. And then becomes kind of pointless. But I think probably this way, like maybe I'll convert some of them more to use variables instead, and then I just leave it like this. And it might be better to just do this way that I'm doing now, because of the other classes that is gonna have. So I think for parsing, it's probably better to do this way, because if I kept the way that it was before, it would be like a lot of codes on the same class, and I think that's like everything would get mixed up. It would be kind of harder to understand how it works. But I don't think I'm gonna do this on stream. I'm just gonna spend some time probably looking into the code edits, because I have to. So the idea that I have, at least for now, is to merge the code edit class with these ones. So I'm gonna study code edit, then see, probably do the same process that I did for text edit. See where each thing would fit best in which class. Then move the functions, and then change whatever logic I have to change to make it work. Then once I have both of the classes implemented, then I can continue from the point that I stopped, which should be to implement the find replace bar, and implement the other class that is going to use this class to render the text. Maybe there's another thing that I can see. I can see if it makes sense to put them together. There's a way that I'm basically trying to do the way that they did before. This is from the way that they are doing. This is the actual class that they use, I think, Is either this class or I think it's the script text editor, which inherits from this class, or no, script text editor uses this class. So this would be like the class that is responsible for managing the states of what is shown on GDScript. And I'm basically like doing a one-on-one copy for now of this, but it might be worth it to see if I can incorporate the logic on the symbol crafter as well instead of needing to use this one. But I think this one might make more sense because not like it's more logic to manage the states and the the GUI visualization. So I think it makes sense to have another class and just leave the other one fully responsible for the states of text and have this one to create additional stuff like the find and replace bar. So it's probably gonna leave it like this. So I think I'm just gonna spend some time studying the code edits class. Close everything. Maybe you can spend some time looking to the inputs as well. What happens, the flow of execution after you press enter or something like this. I was gonna, I think I'm going to try to open from here. If I didn't break anything. And I'm going to add a code edit instance to this, then play, see what happens. Yeah, there's something going on. So I need to, I think I ran this one and it was working, so I need to run the other one that runs the editor. There's probably something going on with the variables. Remove this. Yeah, this one is working, so let's just see this. This function is weird because it runs, I think, after on the constructor, after this is initialized. So I think it runs that notification because it overrides, or that notification is specific to stuff related to themes, and it is kind of weird. It's the function that I had the problem the first time about the font size, like it wasn't showing anything, and it was because I put that function on the symbol crafter first, but the theme is on the text visualizer, so because of that it wasn't working, so I had to move to the other class, and I think it's a little bit weird because it doesn't fully, when it runs the function, it didn't fully initialize the state of the two classes. I had a problem with this function just now as well. Before I had to put a check, an extra check on some of the functions. So obviously I can do that there as well, but it's kind of annoying. Like this update cache. This probably happened a long time ago, and for whatever reason, it has to do with the way that the tags, or the way that the editor is going to initialize a class. It has to be the case because obviously it's working on the application. So something weird with the, it goes back to it's related to this doc thing that I had a problem as well some other time. It's because the doc initializes in a different way. And so let me think about what is the best way to. I should have put a. I think the way that I solved the other one was to put a check. I think it was on this function here, or maybe this one. Just put a check to see if the pointer exists. And it seems that that problem, but it is kind of a weird thing. So maybe I'll just put this check before there and see what happens. See if it's gonna solve. I don't know how to feel about this class because I feel that it could be improved, but it's very hard to know how to do this. Like it's because everything's kind of like entangled and it's kind of hard to think about. But I'm not really sure if the like improvements that I'm kind of thinking that this can have are gonna come more from the classes that are supposed to use this one, like the ones that I'm gonna build later, which is the parser engine and the token manager. I don't know if that's the reason why it feels kind of weird. I guess it is like I think that the thing that is kind of it kind of annoys me is that if I were to start, if I did this from scratch, I think I would probably choose a different approach, and that's the reason why I feel like there could be some improvements. But like to get from that path, from the thing that the way that it is now to the way that I think I would try to do in the beginning, I think it would be like too much work, so it's not worth it. But it's kind of hard to decide whether or not to move on to the next thing or to keep trying to figure out exactly like what is annoying me about this. But it probably most likely has to do with the data structures there, like the class. But yeah, I'm not really sure though. The annoying thing is that it's giving these warnings now because of I made it based on the variable, When the text visualizer was calling the functions, it wasn't giving these warnings. I think this is for the text size that I made it based on the variable. I created another variable in text visualizer. To first, I created API functions from symbol crafter that basically is like calling the functions from text. So I could call directly on the on symbol crafter because of the because one of the functions it was gonna change the state of text, and I wanted to do the extra updates on the text visualizer. So calling the function directly from text wouldn't work because it would require me to have a pointer for text visualizer instead of the text model class, which doesn't work. So I decided to move the functions first to the symbol crafter and just call the functions from text. So for example, here instead of getting the text and the calling size, I create a function get text size that just uses the text pointer to call size. So I did that first, and then after I did this, I changed to a variable. Create a variable in text visualizer, and then I'm setting the text size every time that the text changes on symbol crafter. So that's it synchronizes text visualizer. But because I did this, then I get this warning here, and it has to do probably with this initialization thing. I select warning based on the size here. The line is out of bounds. Text size equals 0. We're saying the text size equals to 0. Just kind of weird. I think I put 1 for text size in the beginning to see if the warning would go away, but seems that didn't work. Oh, I think the warnings, error messages were just these messages here. But it is kind of annoying to have these errors and these warning messages. It's not sure what I should do about this. Might be because like I'm initializing as 1, but it's the thing about the pointer. So like it calls the functions before it fully initializes the class because they're being called as a byproduct of the update caches function. I think that's the reason why this is happening. Also, one of them is this one. Think of this. So maybe on these functions, I just call the text just to get rid of the warning. Maybe that's a good idea. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Just so I don't have to deal with the warning. The problem is, like, if I leave the warnings, there I might get other warnings on other classes that I do, and then it begins to stack up, and then like it's gonna get to a point where it's very annoying to figure out if there's anything wrong. So I wanna avoid doing that. Just for the sake of the warnings going away, I think I'm going to go back to the old way on those situations. So I was doing like this before. Yeah, it stacks. Sign. There was one of these classes that it was kind of annoying. Like it doesn't make any sense in the way that I did here, and that's like one of the situations where it makes me feel that there's something weird going on. I think it's just a consequence of the class design in the beginning. Like I said before, that it's very hard to think about because they designed the class with a different like intent in mind, a different structure, everything else. So it's just very hard to think because of the way that the structures are. It kind of and because it was originally one class and then I'm splitting now, it gets into this situation where it's kind of weird. Because there was one function, I don't remember which one it is, that I'm calling from text visualizer, but then text visualizer calls I'm calling from symbol crafter, but then symbol crafter calls from text visualizer again, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, like this is kind of weird. Like, but then the problem is if I move this to the other class, then like it's the same problem because they're entangled. So it's the whole thing that I did with the mix functions. But the reason why, like, the fact that this is happening when I split the classes makes me think that there might be better ways to design the structures so that because in my mind it should be possible to make the text visualizer only variables and then set the states from Simulcrafter. Like maybe that's the best approach. And then the whole purpose of the text visualizer would be to deal with the inputs and to just organize better, to separate the logic so that this one can focus more on the other stuff. Oh, also the main point of the text visualizer would be the scroll bars. So dealing with the scroll bars and the positions. But it was the other another function that's because it was just it's a function that I forgot which one it is, but there's only one line. Yeah, I think that it is this one. Yeah, it's this one. So like this function gets called from text visualizer, and then all that the function does is call this other function from text visualizer. So like I'm using the symbol crafter pointer on text visualizer, and then it calls this function, and then this function calls the function from text visualizer again. But I think that the reason why I put this one here is because these two functions are from symbol crafter. So that's the thing is kind of weird. So maybe we should move this one to symbol crafter. But then it's gonna force me to move this one. But maybe that's probably better. So gets used 2 times. I think you should probably move this one to the other class. I think I left it here because of the wrap. Got line wrap index column. This one should be here because it's getting the rectangle. It's probably gonna be used for the drawing. I think I'm gonna move this to the other class. Yeah, I'm gonna move this. Go to here. Or then maybe I should move this one as well. Yeah, that's the wrapping mode. I'm gonna move these ones first, then I'll think about the other one. Copy this one first. before I'm gonna put code edit. I think I'm gonna ignore. Maybe so. I think today I'm going to stop. Actually, I'm gonna spend time on both the code edit and the clarifying more the connection. Maybe I'll do a Scali draw as well after the stream. Flowchart for understanding how they're managing the changes in state. So the complex operation functions that they have, and how that changes the state of the both classes. Like the thing is, I think that the way that they did, like that's the thing that I think is kind of if it was very clear, like if it was simple, that the problem is the data structures, then obviously I would remove. But the thing is that when I looked into the way that they did this, it does make sense. That's the thing. Like the only thing that I'm not 100% sure is this text paragraph here. But I think that it probably does make it easier to manage the lines because it makes it easier for the wrapping logic whenever you wanna wrap the thing. Maybe the gutters could be moved from here to the. But this is the thing, is like because everything is broken down lines, it kind of forces you to put everything on the same place. Because they're gonna depend on the index of the text, and all the functions are structured based on the index of the vector. So I can't really move this thing here because this is gonna be used inside of this thing here, which depends on the line. So it's as if we're gonna have multiple different instances of this. Unless I move this vector here, but then again, the vector is for each line. And then the line is on the other class, so it kind of forces me to put the stuff on this class here. But it doesn't make a lot of sense for the gutters to be here because it's a more visual thing. But maybe actually not, because it is kind of related to the logic as well. Like I assume that on the programming languages, once I get to the parsing and getting information from languages, is gonna be connected obviously to the gutters because of the breakpoints and stuff like that. So this is the thing that is kind of confusing, I think, because like the logic, the structure here kind of does make sense, but for some reason it kind of doesn't at the same time. It's kind of weird. So I'm gonna spend some time studying the logic for trying to understand, like making more clear on my mind how the inputs work, because I think that's the thing that matters. Like that's essentially going to be the entry point, let's say, is going to be like this, the way that the text edit and code edit changes the state, change the state of based on the text inputs is going to be the main thing that creates the bridge between the text visualizer, which is the rendering process, the rendering parts, and the logic for the languages, to parse the languages and stuff like that. So I think I need to clarify that part well to see if I can think about how that's gonna go into the whole system. Like when there is an input, yeah, the thing is that the symbol crafter is gonna be the entry point, I think. So the input, I think, right now is on text visualizer. The text visualizer is gonna capture the inputs and it's gonna call a function from symbol crafter. Symbol crafter is gonna have the logic to change the state of the text model class with the text, obviously. And yeah, from that part, I need to think about like how that's gonna connect with the parsing. So I think it's gonna be like kind of like a loop. So symbol crafter receives or changes the state based on the new inputs. Then after that, it has to call other functions to parse the text based on whatever language it is, which is probably gonna be like a state on the symbol crafter as well. So a variable that keeps track of which language is parsing, which is going to be determined based on like the whole scene. Then, based on that language, it calls a function that is going to use the parse engine to parse the inputs. Then after it parses the input, it sends the data to or it returns the data to the symbol crafter. Or maybe like it just changes the state of the parser engine. Then symbol crafter calls additional functions with the changed state of parser engine. Symbol crafter calls parser engine functions again to change its state based on the results. Yeah, there's different ways to do it. And after it does that, then it should stand like. You should probably call functions from text visualizer as well. So the way that's probably gonna work is based on variables. So like create variables. Yeah, the way that they were doing before the syntax highlighting was a class. So they were using a reference to a class, and then they were calling a function from that class. So what I wanted to see here, it doesn't seem that's interesting. So this is not the class that implements the out arrow. It looks like there's ours here. So yeah, this implements the. I thought that it was called edit, but I think that this one has the. Well, it looks like I have to implement as well. Yeah, I think this logic is going to be on the other class, not the code edits. So I'm going to spend some time studying the inputs. So I'm going to compile. I'm going to study the inputs on the tax edits, and then I'm going to study the code edits as well. So put breakpoints and then spend some time studying. I'll be right back. Hmm. Because of the cons, yeah. I think that maybe I should spend time studying the servers and the other parts. I'll see if I can find I have so many files and folders, kind of hard to remember where I put each thing. But I do remember at some point, some time ago, I got the pictures from the documentation, Godot's documentation, and they have the kind of like the chart that explains the relationship between the server and the things, the device, drivers, stuff like that. But I don't know if I remember where did I put this. Yeah, I think I found it. It's basically this. So these classes obviously I'm very familiar with now. Like all these classes on top here because I've been using them for some time. But the servers I'm still not very familiar. There's some weird things about the servers that they use macros and it's like the one that the text paragraph uses. I can't really find the definition of the macro, so I'm not really sure. Maybe I'll ask ChatGPT to see if I can figure out. But it looks like the servers connect directly with the drivers, and the drivers. But I'm not really sure. The drivers are not gonna be like this is the one that I was thinking about before. So I have the scenes on top, and then the scenes are gonna communicate to the servers. Then the servers are gonna communicate with those devices, rendering device, and then the device is gonna have the logic for interacting with Vulkan, I think. And then obviously Vulkan is gonna render everything. This is probably the part that is. There's two parts. One is the inputs, clarify the connection. The other one is the relationship between the text paragraph thing there on the line struct and the state of the whole text. I think that's the reason why I wanted to. So maybe one thing that I was thinking about doing is commenting out the things on the base inserts or something. The function that they use to, like, when he inserts the text, they're gonna call a function from the text paragraph to add a string. So I think on that part I should put something there. I should comment out one of the add string function probably and see what happens. I think it's add string. Yeah, it's basically here. This I'm not really sure if I like this as well. I was thinking about this. I maybe should do something different here. But the thing is, it does make sense. It makes sense, but there's something weird about it. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I think that there's something weird about it. I think it might be weird because it's kind of hard to think about. It does make sense to think about the text on lines, but for the parsing it doesn't. And that's probably the reason why it's kind of weird. But I think that this is the function that is gonna actually add the text, and then they have. I should look for. It's not this one. Is on another place, I think. Or maybe actually it is. So it calls this from the insert text, and then there's another one that is gonna change the value, I think. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask ChatGPT is whether or not this text writes. It doesn't seem that there is anything that explicitly creates values on the vector, so I think that this calls for the write function. Maybe I should investigate the write function. This is a proxy. I think that the reason why they have this write function is because of the memory, so it's probably something to do with the index. Because you have pushback, which is the function that I always use, is just simpler to put the element at the end, and then but on their classes they use this write a lot, and I assume that it is to change the memory on a specific index, and there's probably obviously a difference between them, but I don't understand very well. Scale data also gets called a lot. Scale data is the class that they use to manage the data on a lot of classes, I think. Probably the string and the vector, but it shows up a lot. And I already spent some time looking through this, but I do some calculations based on these values here to get the size of each index. So there's only one place, if I remember, that's, yeah. So only here they use the inserts, and obviously I don't think that's is doing anything, because just cleaning. And then there isn't any other places where it seems that they changed the size of the text explicitly. So I think that the right does change the index. So I'm gonna go over the flow here. I put on the other one. Yeah. So I calls this. We go from the so this is the first input function. Also resize here. That's probably where they add the value. Or this is just adding the indexes, but it's not inserting the tags, I think. Just expanding the memory. But then here they probably, yeah, so they expand the memory, then they loop over, then they add the tags, which is based on this, which is from the other function. And the data is the thing that's gonna hold the tags for each line. So this vector proxy is the right on the vector, yeah. So here. So when you use the right, you're using this class here. It's basically going to be the same type as the vector. So the main point of this is to implement this function. So overloads this operator. So I assume that the call data here is going to be the variable here. And the call data is the class that is going to manage the data, obviously. Not sure why they gave this name. So this I assume is an instance of the template. A safe numeric has the mutex values, or uses mutex to prevent data races. Or it's atomic, not mutex. Yeah, mutex is for locking. I guess it's pretty similar, just different libraries. I think atomic gives you more flexibility for based on the memory model. Your mutex is just to lock and unlock. Like the atomic, depending on the flag that you use there for the memory, is gonna prevent the reordering of instructions by the compiler and probably by the hardware, but I'm not. I think the hardware you can't really prevent from. Obviously, it's gonna be designed in a way that it tries to prevent crashes from data reordering. It's gonna try to maintain the consistency. But there are problems with that, obviously, but oh yeah, it's calling from the vector. So it is gonna be this one. Yeah, this is the part that I was talking about. Like I think that this it seems to be a function, but it might be a macro. But like there isn't any way anywhere that I can find what this does. Not really sure why they did it like this. Yeah, so if I search for here, I can't find it anywhere. So I'm not sure what's. Maybe it's from one of these libraries here or something like this. But I think it probably is not because it's gonna call a function from text server. So it's something weird, I don't know. And I don't understand why they did it like this. Seems kind of weird to me. Maybe it's on this function here or this file. Hmm. Oh, so it's probably this thing here. So I think that the reason why they did it is because of the. It depends on the build time. There is some similar situation on the GDScript files where they generate code based on the build system. So it might be something to do with the versioning. So in order to make it easier to change versions and keep it compatible with the previous ones, they generate the file on build time, and then they use the function based on the macro. They design the class based on the macros that are generated on build time. I think that's probably what's going on. Make wrappers, Python. So it's probably gonna be this file that builds the other one. Yeah. This probably has to do with JavaScript. So let's see what is the first one's gonna be the name of the function. It's gonna be a virtual function. So this case would be, oh, so it's kind of like declaring the function using this. So it builds the function based on the parameters you pass this. This is return statement, the name of the function, and the arguments. Hmm. Yeah, I think I get it now. So this is gonna be on the C++ file probably. Server advanced. This is your phone here. Yeah, so it's exactly that. It's just a macro. Probably something to do with the versioning. Yeah, whatever. Keep track of this. Or one thing that I wanted to understand is, I think that this is the main thing to clarify, is the relationship between this class, the text paragraph class, and the line structs. So what exactly does the text paragraph keeps track of? If it keeps track of the state of the line or the state of the whole text? Obviously, I think it makes more sense to keep track of the state of the line. But I think it was some of the functions that I saw that made me think otherwise, because it seems that they use this text paragraph to get the line count, I think, for the whole thing, not just the line. But it might be because you can have wrapped lines. So even though it would be one line on the struct, is on the vector, the text vector, it would be more than one line for the text paragraph. So I think that's probably what's going on. There is a variable inside of this class that is gonna keep track of the lines, I think. And I wanted to see at what point is it gonna update that variable. So it's probably here it updates the text. Yeah, so this is the function that I was talking about. So this, on several different functions, is gonna call this shape lines before it calls something else. So I think that this is with the place where it's going to update the lines. So you store the text there using the SD pointer on the function that this calls using the server. And so maybe it's not fully like that one is just for the server, but it's not fully related to this one. And then because it marked this as dirty, it's going to update here. Yeah, this is the variable actually that I was thinking about. So I think one of the functions is gonna check the size of this, and this keeps track of the lines that the text paragraph has. So that's the thing. So freeze everything. I should probably put a breakpoint here. So it is connected through the resource ID. So use the server, pass the resource ID, which is probably the ID from this class here, the text paragraph. And then the text server is going to keep track of the text using that span class. And also the text server pointer just adds the text. And then it pushes the line here to this. So every time that there is a change, it's gonna flag that, and then it's gonna go over this. What is the line here? So this is the line, and it uses this function to get the line. So this is what actually creates the line. And gets the breaks based on this. Yeah, so I do think that it makes sense. Like, so I think that the purpose of using this class here on the struct is to keep track of the wrapped lines. But the vector has the lines, and then this stores if the line is wrapped, it's going to store the extra information for the line. So the original one only keeps track of the first line that was added, and this probably for the rest. I assume that's what's gonna. So it wouldn't make sense to move this to outside of the structs. You should look into the value that it returns. So there's. I'm gonna remember which function gets the counts. I just put here now. Yeah, I think this. I'm pretty sure that this is the function. It's just gonna get the. But I do remember. I need to see the return here. See how much it's gonna be. So I'm gonna go back and then press enter and then see what happens. So, but I think it's starting to get more to become more clear on my mind how it works. Just gonna go faster over this, so I don't got to spend much time. I'm probably gonna spend more time off stream trying to understand everything. But the thing that I wanna see right now is when I press enter and it creates a new line, and I wanna. But it's gonna be kind of hard to see. But I think I should go several times, just like put breakpoints on the parts that I think that matter, for trying to understand how the lines are gonna, like the relationship between the lines when and the text, the vector. So the lines on the text paragraph and the vector on the text model. That's what I wanna understand. So this obviously is gonna be the width of the character based on the glyph, which the font class manages. So it gets the size of the glyph, which is the information that the rectangle that renders the character has based on this pattern here. And I think that's what the functions that were doing. They were getting the glyph information for this character based on the encoding. I think the font size as well. Then this returns a position probably or a size true, I think. Then they access the width and multiply by the tab size, which is the configuration for this thing. So they use this to update the text paragraph. Interesting. Next time that I want to understand what is the point of using the right thing instead of using accessing the index directly. So I think I'm gonna compare the two functions. So this is the main function when you use the index. You just use this call data gets, and the other one's gonna be this. So this one gets the pointer. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT this. So this access the pointer directly, I think. It accesses the index on the call data, and this gas from the call data. So this is gonna call the overload operator on the call data probably, and this uses the get function on the data, call data. This also copies. It's just gonna access this from this pointer. It doesn't overload, so isn't the same thing? I'll be right back. Now I understand why they name it call. I didn't understand like what's the point of it's like a weird name, but it stands for copy on write. That makes sense. So basically the difference is that when you use the write, it's gonna copy the data so that if you have shared instances, it's not gonna affect the other ones. It only affects the one that's changed the vector. So it copies when it's writing. And that's what copy on write stands for. And then this one is gonna change all of them. So that's the difference. Pretty interesting. Yeah, so write is to change the vector and the index is to read from the vector. Which obviously makes sense. I'm gonna go faster to get to the points. I think I'm just gonna go over really fast and then start again from the enter. I'm gonna spend more time on this off stream because every time that's like I wanna go over and then like understand the functions that get called most often, because then every time after that it's gonna become easier to understand, because then obviously I already know like what each function does, and then can cover space and it's gonna become more clear on my subconscious mind when it gets time to do the other stuff on the high level. So like I think that this is gonna be like knowing this on the back of my mind of how it works and how the classes connect and the functions and stuff like that is gonna make it easier to think about the translation from the abstract syntax tree into the vector of text. Because I think that this is the point that is the most important for the stuff that I'm trying to do there, is understanding how to think about the translation of the text. What is the best way to store the information after the inputs or when I'm reading the file, and how that's gonna influence the way that I create the other classes. But there's a lot of code, so it's gonna take a lot of time. Oh fuck, should have. But I'm gonna go over this after. I don't have a lot of time. The clock that I put there for the stream already went off. So I'm gonna have to go faster and then go through the other cycle faster as well. The next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm probably not gonna change much. I think I'm gonna go over like this list, try to go relatively fast. I'm not gonna like these ones are very unlikely that I'm gonna change because they depend on the lines. So I think I'm just gonna leave this the way that it is there, the class, and then I'm gonna change only the ones that are relatively easy to change. Then once I change this to be variables on the text visualizer and then update the state from Sumo Crafter, I'm going to merge the code edit class with the text edit class. Then after I do that, I'm gonna go back to the other class that I was doing, which is gonna use symbol crafter, which is the code editor class. Then I'm gonna finish that class and then finish the editor tabs class as well to create the whole components. Once I have the whole components, then I'm gonna decide whether or not to build the rest of the scene or to start building the parsing logic and stuff like that. Nice. Too late. So I'm just gonna go over fast. It's pretty clear to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but it is. It seems to be the way this way that the information there of the height and width is going to be based on the glyph, which is done based on done from the text server that uses the harfbus library to get the information. But obviously there's a lot of code there, so there's a lot of stuff that I didn't pay attention to. But I know that the harfbus library is probably one of the most popular libraries to parse text. I think that's what it does is extract information from probably text files for creating the image of the text, which is basically text coordinates. They're going to be translated into the buffers to draw the triangles. And the files with the text image are Bezier curves. This stuff about direction I also don't understand very well. I watched some videos on this. It seems that for different languages you have like a different way to. Seems like something weird the keyboards and the place that the characters are going to be at, depending on the direction of the text. And it's something weird like that, but I didn't understand very well how it works. This is the kind of stuff that I'm not really sure. Obviously, I think it makes sense to just leave it here, but I think that I'm probably not gonna need this. Like stuff related to direction. It's probably left to right, right to left. We're just gonna skip this. So go fast. I will not have to see this another time. It's gonna be 0. I know what I should do. I should type some text outside and then press Ctrl V. But I think the problem is gonna be figuring out where to put the breakpoints. So it allows me to press Ctrl and V. So I'm gonna press the 5. Like that was the function that I got. This function here got line counts. I press enter. So it looks like from this point already inserted the other line. So I think that this is the place probably on this set function here. Hmm. Yeah, so it's this thing here, probably. Yeah. And it's passing the substrings here. So when you press enter, it probably converts to a new line. Then it calls the other function that passes as a splits the text based on the new line, and then passes that through this function. But what I was curious about is gonna be the how the paragraph is gonna deal with that. But I guess it depends on the line here as well. So it looks like this is still the 0 line, which should have the previous text already. I press F10 by mistake. I'm gonna put the breakpoint there again. I'm gonna press F5 to go quickly. Let's get line counts. So this seems to be just the new line that is getting the information only for the new line on this span. And this speed tax is the tax that already existed there. But it looks like it's duplicating this. Not sure what's going on. Let's see. Is it still the zero line? The problem is that I'm not sure like how to see the value there. Not sure if I skip is gonna show or if but I think it's gonna be probably true. That's gonna. I think if I see the size of this, so it's still one. I think that this returns one. How does that work? I should have looked into the variable. Yeah, size one. So I don't get why. Because this data buff should be the first one that was created the first time that I typed there. So I don't understand how the count is one if it's using the same line and it's creating a new line. I guess I need to go back. Like I need to see the moment that it adds the new line to the tax, which was on the function before. But I'm not gonna do this on stream. I'm gonna do it off stream. So I'm gonna stop streaming now. It's already spent too much time here. I'm gonna keep going here off stream. I think I'm gonna go from the point that it adds the line in the first place. It has the new index on the tax vector. I think I have to go from that point. But most likely what I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna go over a couple more times probably, try to clarify or like just iterate over and over again until like it becomes more and more clear. And I'm going to probably just do a couple of this. I'm gonna go over each one to see. And the thing is, like based on size here, it seems that there isn't like these ones. I should probably create another color for to indicate that I'm not gonna. I think probably blue. The ones that I'm not gonna do it because they depend on the index. But I'm probably gonna do a couple of more of this. A couple of more of this, then clarify how the relationship between the text paragraph and the vector of lines. Like what is the relationship between the states, and then after that you just merge the code edits with the text edits. So do the same process for the code edits, pass the functions to the symbol crafter and text visualizer. Then I'm not gonna think about the class for now, and I'm gonna continue on the previous one that I was doing, which is the code editor, and only then come back. Yeah, so next time to the stream, I'm gonna continue to build this file editor components or class. So see you then.